Perfect. Thank you, Ben. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this virtual event, Collections Up Close, the digital collection as a tool for close examination. My name is Jackie Becky, and I am a reference librarian at the Huntington. This event is a part of an ongoing webinar series presented by the library's Reader Services Department, the Multi-Storied Library. I should mention that this presentation is being recorded and that all attendees will receive an email with links to access this recorded presentation along with a companion research guide after the event has concluded. Today, we're going to be discussing how educators, students, researchers, and museum professionals can harness the power of digital archives and storytelling at a time when many of us are missing the hands-on experience of using library collections. We will be discussing open source online storytelling tools that can be utilized for virtual collection show and tells, digital exhibits, and close reading tools. We realize that many of our readers watching are independent researchers who may not have access to digital humanities labs often found at universities. You may also be an academic librarian or an educator who needs a tool that is easy to leverage at a moment's notice for instruction and that isn't painstaking to learn because it requires advanced tech skills. One of our main goals today will be to provide you with clear steps to using these tools and takeaways so you can build your own digital story or close examination of an object after this presentation has concluded. And the next hour, we'll be highlighting free, easy-to-use tools that we have determined to be extremely useful with the hopes that you can utilize digital collections in new and meaningful ways in the classroom or virtual workplace. So today I'm joined by two fabulous guests. Li Wei Yang is curator of Pacific Rim Collections at the Huntington Library. His last exhibition, YC Hong, Advocate for Chinese American Inclusion, was on view in the Huntington in 2015. Li Wei's next exhibition, printed in 1085, will focus on the Huntington's oldest printed book and is scheduled to go on view in 2021. He received his master's in history from the University of Edinburgh and his MLAS from San Jose State University. I'm also joined by Holly Mendenhall, who is our digital projects manager at the Huntington Library. She helps plan, coordinate, and implement in-house digitization efforts, and she received her MSIS from University of Texas at Austin. So Li Wei is going to kick us off by giving us a guided tour of a digital story we built for this presentation using an object from the Huntington's collections, a Japanese map illustrating topics of interest to the Japanese visitor or immigrant to Hawaii. In the second part of this presentation, Holly and I are going to walk us through the process of building this digital project. And at the end of the talk, as Ben mentioned, we're going to leave time for Q&A, which we'll be conducting in the Q&A box. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Li Wei.
Thank you, Jackie, for the kind introduction. So today we're showing a 1906 Japanese map of Honolulu, Hawaii that depicts the city's old Japanese district. Since roughly the mid-19th century, Hawaii has a long history of receiving immigrants from Japan. So it started in 1868 when the first group, Gannen Mono, comprised of mostly 150 mostly Japanese men and a small number of women who came to Hawaii to work on sugar plantations in the islands. And for the most part, this first official experiment with Japanese laborers failed due to harsh working conditions. Many immigrants returned home, but some stayed behind to form what eventually became the basis of the largest minority groups in Hawaii. This failed project displeased the Japanese government so much that Japan did not permit its citizens to immigrate to Hawaii until 1885. And so the period between 1885 and 1907 is known as the first major wave of Japanese migration to Hawaii. During this time, immigration was rapid but controlled, as both the Japanese and the Hawaiian governments benefited from this arrangement. Hawaii, on the one hand, needed workers to work in its plantation economy, while Japan was experiencing overpopulation relative to the size of its economy. By 1897, the Japanese had become the single largest ethnic group in the islands. And with the annexation of Hawaii by the United States in 1898, racial attitudes toward the Japanese began to change. Anti-Japanese sentiments grew, and calls for exclusion increased exponentially. In 1907, 1 year after this map was published, Japan and the United States had entered into the gentlemen's agreements to informally restrict immigration. In 1924, immigrants from Japan to the US were officially excluded. Now back to the map. This 1906 map represents the tail end of the first wave of Japanese immigration. before restriction went in place in 1907. At this time, there were already more than 74,000 Japanese residents in Hawaii. For the majority of them, their experience in Hawaii were at least partly defined by their work on plantations as low-wage workers. But this map tells another layer of story on Japanese migration. It is about the story of their prosperity and the story of Japanese immigrants putting down roots in Hawaiian society by becoming merchants, hotel and restaurant owners, and operators of many types of businesses. But most importantly, the map's main functions were to promote Hawaii's businesses to newly arrived immigrants and travelers, and to present Hawaii as an attractive destination to potential immigrants. So let's take a look at the map in detail. The first thing I wanted to highlight is the map has a colophon section featuring the cartographer of this map, also showing the names of the publisher and the printer as well too. So we're just going to focus on the cartographer at this time. So Takei Neketsu is the person who made this map, and his name is accompanied by two physical addresses indicating his ancestral home back in Yamaguchi Prefecture in Japan, and also his current residence at the Komeya Inn, the Komeya Hotel here in Honolulu. So this fact in itself signified his transnational status as a Japanese national living in Hawaii at the time. I was able to do a little research, and the record shows that Takei immigrated to Hawaii in 1903, and he has produced many publications and maps on the Japanese people here in Hawaii. And also that his current address at the hotel in Honolulu also indicated that he has not been in Hawaii for a very long time when this map was published at this time. Just one more thing, Takei was a promoter of Japanese nationalism. He was known for doing lectures on plantations to Japanese workers on promoting Japanese ethnic solidarity. We also have other records indicating that the Japanese Navy at this time was making yearly visits to Hawaii in order to promote bilateral relations, both with the kingdom and with later was the United States government. The next thing that I wanted to highlight is the legend. So the map legend on the upper right-hand corner provides a visual explanation on the symbols found throughout the map. So because the map was catered to newly arrived Japanese immigrants, so they provide this sort of a graphical representation on Japanese businesses. We have the Consulate of Japan, we're looking at banks, also utility offices, the tax bureau, and all kinds of government entities at the time that were relevant to the Japanese immigrants. You do note that because this map is not meant to be a comprehensive listing of all the Japanese businesses at this time, because after all, this map was made as an advertisement. And so only businesses who pay a fee can be featured on this particular map. One of the main functions of the map is to orient newly arrived immigrants with their new environments. And so the map and the legend, serve to help familiarize the new environments for the new migrants coming into Honolulu. It is also helping them to overcome one of the biggest barriers when it comes to immigration, which is the language barrier. So immigrants would note that there are a large number of Japanese businesses, and also in help with either immigration matters or everyday matters in that regard. The next one, I wanted to show you the intersection of Hotel Street and River Street, just to show the profusion of Japanese business at this time. So like I said, the map was published in 1906, and the Japanese population was already growing at a very healthy rate at this time. So from this map, we can see that there is just this intersection along. We see general stores, we see clothing stores, we see a confection shop, a bicycle store, anything that you can name it. And so it's already showing that the Japanese have already put down a significant number of investments and also roots in Hawaiian society during this period. Next is the date. So this stamp is showing that the map was printed in Meiji 39, which translates to 1906, February 20th, and the map was published eventually in the March that same year. So this particular map was probably sold for very cheap price because they wanted to achieve a wider distribution, whether to incoming immigrants to Hawaii or to entice people to immigrate to Hawaii as well too. So unfortunately, we don't know what was the price, but that was the main purpose of this map, is to achieve wider distribution of it. Next, I wanted to showcase one of the advertisements found on this map. So this is the advertisement for a bank, the Yokohama Specie Bank at the time. So there was already a branch in Honolulu, and so Japanese immigrants in Hawaii can deposit their money. They can also send money back to Japan, receive money from Japan at the time too. And so this is one of the ways that the Japanese government's working with private industry to ensure that the migrants overseas have resources and access to banking services. One of the things that I found interesting is the hotel advertisements on this page. Because of the number of migrants coming over to Hawaii, they need a place to stay. So these small hotels, or you might call them boarding houses, offering long-term lodging solutions to these migrants until they can find a better place to stay. And in addition to lodging options, this particular hotel also offers a range of immigration services for a fee. So any type of translation, procedural fulfillments, communication with either the immigration station or with the consulate of Japan were all offered as part of the package service. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is that this is also a similar hotel advertisement by another hotel at the time, but this particular hotel advertisement is indicating that there was a demographic change here during this time. And so between 1903 and 1906, the publication of this map, there were already thousands of Korean immigrants making their way to Hawaii for the same reason. They were here to work on plantations. We're talking about pineapple and sugar plantations. And so this advertisement really reflects the demographic change that was taking place at the time. And this particular hotel is offering lodging and meal services to both Japanese and Korean migrants coming over. And in particular, they offer Korean meal services to them as well too. So this is the end of my part, and I will hand it back to Jackie.
Thank you, Li Wei, for that wonderful guided tour of your digital map story. In this next portion of the presentation, Holly and I are going to walk through how we created this story for Li Wei's map and explore some options for developing this project further. So the tools we'll be highlighting today use web annotations to tell a story with IIIF. So this essentially gives you the ability to do a guided tour of a digital image. And this approach is great if you want to set up a close examination of a page or an object for students, or have students create their own. IIIF, which is short for International Image Interoperability Framework, allows you to use digitized cultural heritage materials from a worldwide network of institutions. You can use annotations to give a guided tour of a wide array of collection materials. So aside from maps, you can walk through the elements of a title page, the layout of an early printed book, or you could highlight elements in an illuminated manuscript. Here we have an example of an illuminated manuscript digital story created by St. Andrews University scholars, and they're using IIIF and annotations to tell a story. They're showcasing an illuminated manuscript known as the St. Andrews Quran, and they did a brilliant job showcasing the various elements of the manuscript, such as the gold-flecked paper, examples of calligraphy in at least 4 scripts, features of the binding, and much more. As you can see, the viewer can click through the object using the arrows here to give a guided tour. And it navigates through the annotations that highlight particular features of the manuscript. And now that we have seen several examples using a variety of materials, we're going to dive into talking about how you can create your own. And for this demo, we're going to be uncovering all the steps we took to create that map exhibit that we showed you at the beginning of this presentation. The platform we're going to be demoing is called Exhibits, and it's a IIIF storytelling tool developed by the University of St. Andrews. This tool is free, easy to use, and it does not require you to download any software or register for an account to get started, which is fantastic. I'm going to drop a link to the Exhibits portal in the chat. If you want to follow along, go ahead and click on that link. All attendees will be sent this link at the end of the presentation in a companion research guide, which also includes a link to Leeway's exhibit at the beginning of this presentation. So it's by no means necessary to follow along live with this live demo. To begin, I'm going to click on Getting Started here and create a new exhibit. And then we can enter a title for exhibit, an author, and a description. So once you create that initial information to title your exhibit, you're going to be working through the interface here to add your annotations to an image. But first we need to grab a AAAF image to annotate. So because we're recreating Leeway's map exhibit, I'm going to pop over to the Huntington Digital Library. So for those of you who've never visited the Huntington Digital Library or the HDL, it's a freely available resource that hosts a diverse selection of digitized Huntington Library materials. So all materials on the HDL can be downloaded for free using this download icon here. And all images in the HDL have AAAF manifest links. So any of you can go into the HDL after this presentation and grab links to create your own digital story. To find the AAAF manifest URL, you scroll to the bottom of the record and you'll see it here in the AAAF manifest field. So I am going to copy that link and pop it into my exhibit here. To do that, I'm going to click Add Item, and in the AAAF manifest URL field, I'm going to paste that link right there. And then voila, our image is imported, super slick. And then you can just start adding annotations or details to call out features of the map. To add your annotation, you click the plus sign, and then you can keep navigating your way through the map to call out specific features. So you can rotate, pan, zoom in. This is the best part of the exhibit. So I'm going to zoom in on this box here and then add some text to highlight this feature. So you can add this by clicking the tick mark. And if you want to rearrange these annotations at any point in time, you can click and drag these here. And if you want to edit any of your annotations too, you can click on the annotation and make your edit and click the tick mark. And then when you've finished with your exhibit, you can, let's see here. Click the share button at the bottom here to grab your links to share your exhibit with the world. So you'll notice this note at the top, keep this URL safe. I would recommend that you bookmark this URL, so I'll do that here because you're not downloading any software or creating an account. So in order to retrieve this later to edit your exhibit, you're going to have to go to this bookmark link. Let's say you want to collaborate on an exhibit with someone else. You can give them a copy of this editing version of the link so you can co-create an exhibit with someone, which is pretty fantastic. If you want to share this with a group of students or present it in presentation mode, you'd click the view option, copy that link. And we even have embed code here so you can embed it in a website or LibGuide, which is great. So let's take a look at the two annotations I've added thus far, just so you can see it in action. So in the preview mode, you'll see this is starting to look like Leeway's exhibit at the beginning of the presentation, and you can navigate through my two annotations just to see how it works. Pretty slick, pretty fast. So at this point, you may be wondering how you can develop this further. You may want to add additional items to this initial AAAF image you've added. Perhaps you want to compare this map to another map in the Huntington's collections or a photograph of Honolulu. Or perhaps you want to find related materials from another repository to create a story that spans multiple collections. You may also want to build a project to address the ways in which digital surrogates do and do not match the material realities of printed works. You could include examples of varying quality to show how photographic reproductions can produce false clues in a digital literacy instruction session with students. I'm going to pass the mic over to Holly Mendenhall, who will discuss finding related images and objects in the IIIF community and how you can add these images to your project.
Thank you, Jackie. That was a wonderful demonstration of how easy it is to set up an exhibition on Exhibit. I'm seeing a couple of questions that I'll try to address in my portion, hopefully. So we've seen a few examples of how this tool can be used for close examination of an object. But I think one of the greatest features of Exhibit is that the platform doesn't limit you to the importation of just a single manifest for the examination of just a single object. In fact, we can bring together images from across the world so long as they're IIIF compliant. And some of the questions in the chat sort of touch on this, in that a IIIF compliant image is portable across platforms, and the manifest, that URL that Jackie showed us and copied, is the vehicle for that portability. So I put together a second exhibit, sort of piggybacking on Liwei's, to show you how we can bring together objects from across the world and maybe make new comparisons and have some deeper understanding. So here's my second exhibit. Someone asked about whether or not the annotations can be, sort of they're obscuring the text or the image. You can minimize the annotations and get those out of the way if you want by clicking up here. And you can move the image around. It's still zoomable. So there's some flexibility based on the size of your screen in fixing the images so the annotations aren't totally obscuring what you're trying to show. So we're familiar with this map now, available from the Huntington Digital Library. Zooming in to the same sort of area that Liwei focused on, there's a concentration of points between Hotel and King Streets. This is River Street with the Nuuanu River at left. So Liwei told us that these businesses were featured presumably because they paid to be included. So I was kind of interested in what other businesses might have been around that maybe didn't want to pay or couldn't. So I went looking around and I found a fire insurance map published in the same year, 1906, and it's digitized by the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And I thought that maybe it would provide us some answers if we could get to the right section of Honolulu. So here's the same area, Hotel Street, King, River. And if we zoom in, we can see, thankfully, a sort of categorization of what all of these buildings are. So there's a bicycle store, the hotel, the Japanese hotel that's highlighted by the map in the Huntington Digital Library. There's multiple Chinese groceries, general stores, tenements, offices. So we get a really good idea of what is in the area and what it might have felt like walking down the street. We have a Japanese fish market shared with a Chinese theater. So again, with this tool, you can see that it's not locked, it's very flexible, but I can show you exactly what I want to show you initially and move around. We could further compare these maps against the content of a complete booklet that I actually found in the National Diet Library, the National Library of Japan. They digitized this book from 1911, so 5 years later. And surprisingly, it's by the same cartographer, which is terrific. We can compare how things have changed in 5 years. especially thinking about sort of the social and cultural changes that are happening in Hawaii at the time. We have a picture of our author, and his plants. He's accepted 2020 in full. And the same area, Hotel King River, has been more completely annotated. The depiction is very familiar. He's maintaining the same format. And if I zoom out on this page, you see the same sort of border, colors, everything. So this little book provides us also with a glimpse into the businesses in the area in another form, photographs. We can see the photos of the businesses and their proprietors in these little advertisements that were used to sort of make the book possible. So here's a drugstore, and I can zoom in and show you what that would have looked like. There's a bicycle store. Doesn't look that different than today. A hotel, and we've got, you know, horses and carts and buggies. And a hat maker. Really cool. So pulling the lens way out and circling back to another Huntington material, we're left with this 1907 view of Honolulu Bay with ships coming in, and hopefully a better understanding of the Japanese district that's hidden therein. It would have been like right over here, looking out onto the bay. So Exhibit has made it really easy to compare these materials and tell a story within them. This sort of bringing in manifests would have been really difficult. I would have needed to download some software or download images, put them in a PowerPoint. This is just really simple and free. So I would guess that what you're asking now is, how do you find viable manuscripts to include in an exhibit? So Jackie very helpfully showed that the records in the HDL all helpfully have this IIIF manifest link. You're looking generally for a file ending of manifest.json. And you're going to want to click the manifest link instead of the image. But what I'm trying to show you here is that we put this information front and center within the record so you can always find it easily. However, though IIIF is an agreed upon framework allowing for images to be invoked in an agnostic workspace outside of the source repository, so outside of the HDL, for example, there is no standard for how those repositories indicate that images are compliant and portable. So I'm going to walk through how I found the additional images included in my exhibit to highlight sort of different methods of locating manifest URLs, because it's not always obvious. So to start, I searched Google for IIIF map Honolulu, which brought me to a LibGuide published by the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And it's all about Hawaiian historical maps. Great. I was delighted to find several maps from the turn of the century, and I clicked into their digital collections and found, so here are their digital collections, and I found a whole category of fire insurance maps that are not Sanborn maps, which is really rare. It's pretty cool to see other publishers that are local to Hawaii. And so I managed to find the 1906 map, and I located the area that we were looking for. So I'm gonna helpfully just magically, there it appears. There's no indication on this page at this time. See, we're going through the record for this item that this is IIIF compliant. I don't know. It's not until I go to share the item, I have to click the share icon, that I see a IIIF logo. And this share link is not even the manifest. It's just for this page. So I right-click the IIIF logo and I copy the link address. And I'll show you. I've got manifest there at the end. So that is the URL that I'm going to use to add an item to my exhibit. So you really have to, you have to know and train yourself where to look and be curious on a web page to find whether or not something is IIIF compliant. So though the framework has standardized the portability of these images, each digital collection can have a different way of delivering the manifest information to you. And there are many digital collections available on the internet that have not adopted the IIIF framework. So it can be hard to tell which images can be used in this way and which can't. And Exhibit can only use IIIF compliant manifests, unfortunately. And to avoid the disappointment of finding an image that is not compliant, which I encountered many a time in putting this exhibit together, you can sort of avoid that disappointment by using a IIIF aggregator that will only find images that can work with Exhibit. So there's no, at this time, there's no single aggregator for all IIIF images out in the wild, but a number of really great options exist, and we've included those in the LibGuide for this talk, so be sure to check that out. To find the guidebook from 1911, I searched one such aggregator that's so cool, Cultural Japan, and right on their front page, you see IIIF items. So I'm going to click into that. And I searched for variants of Honolulu. Another hitch here is that searching for content can be tricky, as every organization digitizing materials may have different practices, different levels of discoverable metadata. It can be cataloged in different languages. I don't read Japanese, but I was happy to see in finding the item a IIIF logo right there, right on the catalog record, and similar to the HDL, they have the logo and the manifest, and I can just copy that and bring it into Exhibit. So those are two examples of things to just sort of see how differently people display, or repositories display, their IIIF material. But if you're interested in finding more IIIF resources, I recommend getting familiar with the list of IIIF consortium members and browsing their digital collections to get a better sense of where you might start to look for certain types of materials and who has what. So the IIIF website helpfully has a list of all of their consortial members and links to their digital collections. So that's a really great place to start. And I'm going to hand it back to you, Jackie, for Q&A.
Great, thank you so much, Holly. I know all of you are probably curious about how to access these links, so I'm dropping a link right now in the chat box to a companion research guide that's sort of a research toolkit for this talk. So all of the links that Holly mentioned, the resources, how to find your IIIF manifest URL, the steps I outlined along with a link to Exhibit so you can build your own exhibit, all of that is in there along with a link to Leeway's digital map story. So I highly recommend you take a look, click on that link. There's also a feedback form in there, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on this presentation. So please take a moment to fill that out. And without further ado, I'm just going to jump into the Q&A because there's a lot of questions. So I'll start reading these to the group and we can take turns answering them. So a lot of folks are asking if there's a tool out there that they can use to present their own images. Holly, do you want to take this one on?
Yeah, so there is a really great tool called the Bodleian manifest editor, and I will get a link and put that in the chat when I'm done answering the question. And you can, provided that you have a way of hosting your own images and that manifest.json file. So you could even do it on something like Google Drive, or if you have your own website, you can use the manifest editor tool to bundle your own images and create that manifest, host the manifest, and then bring that material into Exhibit. You want to be careful with rights. Don't be taking other people's material and just making your own manifests, I would say, if you don't have permission to. But I'll drop that link in there. And we also have some, in the LibGuide, we have a link to a really great IIIF tutorial that if you go into the advanced section will cover how to do that manifest editing.
We'll dive into some more questions here. I have a question that is, love the ease of use. As you edit an exhibit, is there a way to save and work on the exhibit or come back to it later? So yes, and when you click that share link on the exhibit, it'll give you a reminder to bookmark that page. I would say bookmark the page and save that link for you to retrieve it later. But bookmarking and saving the link is the only way to come back to the exhibit to work on it at a later time. And some folks are asking, how long does Exhibit site maintain exhibitions? And I don't know if I have an answer to that right now. So many of these tools are new and in beta stages. People are releasing this so quickly just to help people during the pandemic to use collections from home. I would say you could always reach out to the exhibits team to ask them that, but also we can try to do some digging and follow up individually with some of these questions later. So we will try to email some of you with these specific questions later. Let's see here. Is there a way to track the number of people who'll be using your collections to create these annotated exhibits? And I don't know if I have the answer to that. So that's something we will also answer individually, unless Holly, you know, if there's a way to do that.
So this is a really new tool that was released just about a month ago. And we were really excited to be able to share it with everyone. So you could have a nice Zoom presentation using IIIF compliant materials. So I think it's sort of a work in progress, which is why we don't have a straight answer about retention or statistic use. I don't think that they're really capturing those metrics at this point, but as the tool develops, they may, especially if more people use it.
And I would say too, you could get creative. If you want to create your own Google web form, which would be free, you can include that and have people give you feedback as they use it or their comments, which could be cool. Somebody's also asking, can you create side-by-side images within exhibits, or do you need to combine them externally and import them as an object?
Presently, you can't. That's sort of nice. Like the other functionality of IIIF compliance is that in certain image viewers, you can draw up multiple items in the same way and compare them, which is something we featured in previous webinars at the Huntington. At this time, Exhibit can't do that. So you would have to combine them elsewhere and bring that manifest in. But if enough people use the tool, like I said, I'm sure they would take feature requests.
A couple of people are asking about how the IIIF Manifest tool works to create exhibits with digital objects and content DM. Holly, do you want to take this one on too?
Yes. So we use Content DM to serve the Huntington Digital Library, and it is Content DM, a sort of a cookbook feature that we have installed and implemented that creates the IIIF manifests and lists them in the catalog record. So if your institution uses Content DM, you can actually go to their OCLC's cookbook website and implement the same feature. But they're kind of separate content DM is the, the software that makes the repository exist, and the images are IIIF compliant by virtue of that manifest, if that sort of makes sense.
Let's see here. I'm digging through all of these questions. If the image had some kind of data, such as a table or a chart, is there an easy way to transcribe the data in the exhibit box to make it easier for someone to copy it and use it in their research? We hadn't thought of this up to this point, but that is, unless you all have ideas, this might be something we need to dig into and get back to this individual later, unless Holly or Leeway, you have any ideas for this?
If you would be willing to transcribe the data yourself, there's nothing to stop you from putting it in the annotations box, but that might look a little clunky. So maybe you can embed links within the annotations, and there's formatting. So you could possibly put that sort of clear text, link it out elsewhere so someone could go and copy it. Is my idea.
And, I think for this group of folks watching the webinar, if you want to stay in touch and keep discussing this further, we do have the feedback form which invites you to list your email address if you want to be contacted about future library events. We can also keep people in the loop about further developments with this tool in the coming months if you want to fill out that feedback form and leave your email. Someone is asking, how does one become a member of the consortium? And I'm assuming, yep, Holly, do you want to take that?
Sure. You contact IIIF, and you have to pay to become a member of the consortium because it is a sort of nonprofit. They have 3 employees making this all work, and it is a very active community. So I would recommend, if you're interested in joining, they have community calls on a very regular basis. You can join their Slack channels and maybe get a better understanding of the community and the development, and definitely check out their website, iiif.io, and you can look at how to become a member and get more involved. I think it's about $10,000 a year for full membership.
And if anyone has further detailed questions after the fact, I should mention too, the library has reference at huntington.org, which is a great email to pose these questions to after the fact too. And we can direct them to Holly, Leeway, and I. So feel free, if you think of a question after the fact, send us an email. And we have a great question here. For those of us who are new to using digitized print media, what important differences do we need to recognize between digitized items and the actual object? And I think that that is a great question to ask, and I think that is on a lot of our minds right now, and especially in an instructional session where you might want to incorporate digital literacy skills. And I think, earlier I mentioned, Holly was navigating different materials related to a particular topic, but you could have different photographic reproductions of the same item to illustrate false clues that the digital reproduction gives. So I know also that, I don't know, Holly, if you want to interject here too, if you have ideas, but I think a great way that you could use exhibits to do this would be to have different versions of the same object and do that close comparison where you zoom in on elements of the scan. Perhaps you want to show how there's bleed through from the page, or it's poor scan quality, which leads the viewer to interpret the object, an aspect of the object to be something it isn't. So I think you could really use exhibits to zoom in on those elements, call out the false clue, and do some instruction there to talk about how that's an element of the scan versus representing the materiality of the object.
Mm.
And somebody's asking, are AAAF manifest links part of a library catalog record in WorldCat?
Not generally.
Mm-hmm. And let's see here. I think we're getting through the bulk of the questions, and I know we're close to 11 o'clock here. So we'll answer one more, and then I think we'll answer the remainder of these via email, so we can go more in depth. But the last question is, do the images need to be a TIFF file, or can it be PDF? And since you're using the AAAF manifest URL, you're importing it via that link, so you won't have to think about TIFF versus PDF, since AAAF is doing that heavy lifting for you to import that image into your presentation. In terms of using tools to present your own images, Holly, do you know if there's limits on that with TIFF? I think if you go to the website and do some exploration, it'll be pretty clear what.
Yeah, no, it's pretty agnostic in terms of file format. An exhibit can even handle 3D objects, so long as you have a manifest for them. So it really, like you said, AAAF does the heavy lifting and sort of creates a wrapper around whatever file format it is. It can't do audiovisual material at the moment. Exhibit can't, and AAAF is working on AV material at the moment. So it's primarily images, but it really covers the majority of image types that you would encounter, and PDFs. So that manifest is really the key. And no, you don't have to be a member of AAAF Consortium to use AAAF. AAAF is open and free. That's the whole point, is that we're avoiding lock-in to specific repositories, historical repositories, digital collections online, and making those images go out into the world and be used outside of those repositories.
I think we'll stop there. And for those of you who haven't had your questions answered, we will follow up with you via email. And for all attendees, I put that link to that companion research guide in the chat. So please do take a look. I think a lot of questions will be answered there with the links and the information found there. We will also be emailing that along with a link to the feedback form to all attendees after the fact. We'd love for you to fill that out. Thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us here. We miss all of our readers and seeing our colleagues at conferences. So it's really nice to be here with you today, and we hope you all are staying safe. And we will end here, but we will be in touch via email, and we hope you tune into our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.